If you have a photograph of a piece of furniture, you can sometimes use it to create a model in SketchUp. The photograph needs to be taken from a certain angle. So to illustrate that, I have a cube here that I created, and I'm going to create some guidelines on here. And you'll notice that these guidelines go off to the left and right. They're parallel to the edges of the cube, and they go off to vanishing points on either side. Now, it's a little hard to see in this view, but if I change the field of view to bring those points in, you can see that the vanishing points on either side. If the photograph that you have of the piece was taken from this angle where you can see both vanishing points, then you're in good shape. If the photograph is more like this, and if I put a couple of more points on here where there's only one vanishing point, then this process won't work. So let's go to our image here. So I'm going to start. I need to bring the image into SketchUp. So I'm going to go to File and Import. And I have the type here set as JPEG. And when you have that selected, you get these different options here. You can bring it in as an image. You're just going to use the image for whatever purpose, maybe to create something to scale or whatever. The texture or new match photo, and that's what we're doing here. So I've got that selected. I'll select the image that I want, and I'm going to click Import. So notice that when it comes in, I've got all these crazy lines here going various directions. So I'm going to go back to that other image and rotate around here. So what I need to do is get these lines established that head off to the vanishing point in this direction, which will be the red axis, and also the lines going off in this direction, which are the green axis. So if I look at this, and I said those in reversed, you can see here the green axis lines here, they're pointing to a point over here, and the red ones are pointing to a point over here. This point here, this yellow square, is the origin. And notice it says adjust origin to a useful starting point. So I'm going to drag that to there. That's a reasonable starting point. And you notice this green line here doesn't quite align to there. So I can tweak that by moving these points. So I want to get this green line aligned with some lines that are going off in that direction. So there's a pretty distinct line here, this one here. So I'm going to align this like that. So I'm just going to bring that out, give me a little more. Doesn't matter where the box is. I just need this line along or parallel to a line in the model. For up here, I'm going to grab this line. So I'm going to put this, I can just put that right on the corner. And I'll line this up there. That looks pretty good. Now notice the green vanishing point is off of my model. That's okay. I don't really care about that. I can't see it anymore. That won't be a problem. So I'll do the same thing with the red. Those are aligned along there. I can use this line here, put that there and there. So those align nicely. Now when if the picture is good and not really distorted, once I have these red and green lines aligned correctly, my blue vertical axis should align with the model, which is it's pretty close here. I'm going to maybe modify these a little bit there. You can see I just have to, if I just move that a touch, it moves my blue axis around a little bit. So that all looks really good right now. So now I can start modeling. Now, this gets a little confusing. You have to remember that you are modeling. Here is the green axis. Here's the red axis. You can see the red axis actually goes off to the right and below. But when I go, say, to the rectangle tool, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click off to the side. That allows me to access all the tools. So I'm going to go to the rectangle tool, and I'm going to, I might as well start at the origin here, and I'm going to move back, and it's a little hard to see because of the picture there. But you'll notice in the measurements window it says 17 by 10. Okay, so I'm going to get out of there. So what that tells me is this came in at a scale that's not correct, right? This thing obviously isn't, the size of that leg wouldn't be 10 inches or so. So I do need some dimensions in the model to give me a sense of the scale. So I believe the top of this table is about 25 inches square. And so that would imply that the distance from the outside of one leg to the outside of another leg is maybe 20. If that's 25, I might have 1.5 inch overhang, so all around. So that would be 25 less 3. So that dimension should be 22 from there to there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the tape measure tool. I'm going to tap the control key because I don't want that little plus sign next to the tape measure. And I'm going to click on the origin and come out as accurately as I can to there. And I'm going to click. So currently that's 117 inches. I think that should be 22, so I'm going to type 22 and enter. It'll ask me if I want to resize the model. I'm going to say yes. So now I think my model is to scale, and that gives us a better sense of the axes here. So I'm modeling in the red-green plane. I just need to keep that in mind. Of course, the blue axis is vertical. And I'll zoom in here a little bit so I can see better. And now I'll go back to the rectangle tool, and I'm going to start in this corner and come over to here. So that looks about right. It says a square, and down at the bottom there it says approximately 2.25 by 2.25. So that seems reasonable. If somebody's using 10-quarter material, they might be making legs that are 2.25 square. So I'm going to type in 2.25, comma 2.25, and then I'll push-pull that up. Now, if I come up too far, obviously I don't want to be up at the top. It's a little hard to tell here. Now I have to imagine the leg is coming up underneath the top. So it's probably about there. That says 20 and 15, 16. So I'm going to just say 21. That is probably about right. Remember, if the top was not there, that looks about right for the leg. Now it does look a little big down here, but I'm going to stay with that for now. So I'll triple click, make that a component, call it leg, and I'll copy that off in this direction. So that looks about right there. So remember, this was 22 inches outside to outside, so I want to move this 22 minus 2 1/4, so that'd be 19 3/4. There we go. That looks pretty good. I'll do this. I'll select both legs now and copy those in that direction. 19 3/4. So that looks pretty good. Now I might want to orbit a little bit. Now notice when I orbit, I lose my image. I can get it back by just clicking on the scene, and that brings things back into view here. So I'm going to draw a rectangle on top here for the top. We'll push-pull that up. Looks like it might be about 1 inch thick, I'm just guessing. And then I'll push-pull this out. And that's about 1 1/2, which was what I had assumed. So we'll orbit around here. Okay, and come back roughly to where we started. I'll click this again. There, so that's looking pretty good. That aligns nicely with what I have. My legs look a little big here. Maybe a 2-inch square leg might look better. So, no, I did not flip these. I should have flipped that along the green axis. And these should have been flipped along the red direction there. There we go. So now if I decrease the size of this, let's see here. I want to make sure, maybe I didn't flip that right, but let's see here. Let's open this for editing. I want to bring that in 1/4 and 1/4. There we go. And let's go back to here. Okay, so now I kind of messed up here. I need to put this back on the origin. I got my origins mixed up. So this dimension was 22. Go 22 this way, so let me make sure those are in the right place. That needs to move 1/4 inch there. There we go. Okay, so those are in the right spots. Let's go back to there. Okay, so that's lining up nicely with the 2-inch legs. Okay, so what I would continue to do then is, say, add my aprons. I'm going to guess right now that they are 3,0.75. And I'll pull that across to there. See how that looks. Okay, now that's too wide now, but there is a reveal here, right? That looks like it might be about 1/4 inch. So let's make that a component. Call that apron. I'm going to move it along the green axis 1/4 inch. We'll take another look. Now that takes a little while to switch around, so I'm going to go to Model Info, Animation, and turn off the transitions. That'll speed that up. And it looks too wide. Let's bring that up an inch. There we go. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. All right, so I think you get the idea. Moving along here, I would just continue to model this and keep checking back with the photo by clicking here. So that's how Match Photo works. It can be very helpful, assuming you have an image, like I said previously, that is taken from this perspective, right? It won't work if your image is taken from that perspective. That's a very helpful tool.